This is from the research I did for my dissertation. I just finished last fall. That's why I don't have any hair. And the sky's a little bit blue and the grass is a little bit greener. But my research focuses on non-credit. And here I'm like surrounded by non-credit people. When I first approached some of my instructors, they're like, no one's going to read that. Was kind of the response that I got. But then the provost of North Orange County, Dr. Schultz, he was very interested. He was on my committee. And it was from there when people started to think, oh, you know what, this is pretty cool, this is important. Okay, so I'd like to begin. Mr. Antonio Guzman. I taught non-credit ESL at the lowest levels, literacy. I met him in class. Fast forward 5 years later, I went through all the teaching of pronunciation classes, and then I was teaching citizenship. And then he was in my class again. And I remember when he was taking the lowest level, he came up to me and said that, you know what, I want to be a U.S. citizen. That's my goal. That's why I'm here. 5 years later, he's in my class. He's taking class. He becomes a U.S. citizen. That's when the economy was going bad, and I was able to finally afford a small condo in Orange. And then I bought my house, and then I'm happy. And then when I came home from work, my wife's like, I met one of our neighbors, and then he mentioned that, I mentioned what you do for a living, and then I mentioned your name, and he started to bow his head and speaking of you as if you're some kind of king or something. And guess what? It was Antonio Guzman. And now we're neighbors. We live together. And then that's kind of where the thought of this research project started. I was thinking, like, what was the decision-making process of this student who came in and how he went through through his educational pathway. So just to give you a brief background, we talked about non-credit. For people who are not familiar, non-credit instruction is very similar to adult education. Historically, both programs emerged from the K-12 system back in 1856 in San Francisco. Now, most of the time, if it's through the community colleges or if it's affiliated through a community college district, it's referred to as non-credit. Through the K-12 system, it's referred to as adult education. And this was forced to be split through the California Master Plan. But it's funny how now everyone's coming back together now through the block grant. Okay, so this is my research right here. So students come in, get assessed, transition, beginning levels 1, 2, and 3, intermediate 1, 2, and 3. And then this is where I wanted to focus my research on. Where are they going after they finish intermediate 3, and why? And what were some of the things that affected the decision making? So it was to uncover, the purpose of this study was to find the key elements that influenced the overall thought process of the student population as they moved and made decisions regarding their educational life aspirations. So here are my research questions. My first research question was, how do adult learners who are about to complete the highest level of non-credit ESL classes offered at their institution describe their decision-making process regarding what they choose to do upon finishing the semester? And two additional questions that guided my research were, how does this student population describe their experience as non-credit ESL students? And how do they describe how the non-credit ESL courses they have taken, how it influenced their life and educational trajectories? I know this might sound boring, but I'm just going to go over the methodology. Now onto the methodology. The goal of social constructivists, I had a social constructivist worldview, is to rely as much as possible on the participants' views of the situation being studied. So their point of view. And since my research focused on explaining the central themes surrounding the decision-making process, a qualitative approach was a good fit for this exploratory study. And I'd like to reiterate that the goal of this study was to construct emerging themes from the data, not a full theory. I only interviewed 13 students for about an hour, so there was not enough data there to construct a full theory, which would be nice, but it would have taken a lot longer. Okay, the context of this research, the site was at Santiago Canyon College's Division of Continuing Education. It offers day and evening and Saturday classes. And the center also offers academic counseling and career services to their students. Okay, from this slide, I'd like to point out that 70.5% of the students are over the age of 25. And the three largest populations in regards to FTES are ESL, the high school diploma program, and career technical education, with ESL being the largest. Okay, the method I used in finding my participants is referred to as purposeful sampling. That is, I intentionally selected the sites and the participants. This type of purposeful sampling is referred to as homogeneous sampling. The term is used to describe the selection of participants based on a subgroup. I selected participants that fit the following criteria. Enrolled in intermediate ESL 3, recommended by their instructor, and possessed communication skills required for an interview in English. I conducted exploratory interviews, which are interviews which had little structure, and ultimately I tried to seek to uncover the information about their experiences and discover new angles on the topic. My participants. I did my best to gather data from participants that mirrored an ESL classroom. With the help of my former colleagues, I was happy with the results. I had 7 female students, 6 male participants, and the ages range from 19 to 75. I had 10 different countries out of the 13 participants. Excuse me. And the length of time in the U.S. ranged from 4 months to 22 years. And needless to say, I had a diverse group. At this point, I was kind of worried. My chair was saying you need to get a good, diverse group, but the more diverse they are, it's harder to find like an underlying theme amongst them. So, like, you know, the more criteria. If I was just doing research on female Latino students, then the saturation would have gone. The themes would have come out a lot quicker. But with this, I was quite worried, but some good stuff came out. Okay, so the findings. Now I'm switching gears to the findings of the study, and to give you a simple overview, the overarching theme and the 4 other themes. One overarching theme and 4 other themes emerged from the study. And the overarching theme is the effect on family weighs heavily on the decision-making process. I identified this to be the central finding because the data showed that this theme overlapped into the other 4 themes that emerged in this data. And that is that the participants' assessment on how a decision made would affect their family was embedded in the other 4 themes as well. Okay, so theme 1. Enrollment in classes stems from situations participants faced that required improvement language skills in the target language. Okay, so Jarvis, 1987, stated that the learning process in adult learners initiated when they are faced in a situation that they're unable to successfully respond to or navigate through because they do not possess the necessary skills. Similarly, many of my participants in this study shared how certain situations involving their language ability led them to enroll in ESL classes. For example, RN, she's 69 years old and from Belarus. She lived in the U.S. for 15 years. She came to the U.S. Because her daughter was studying at a university in San Francisco and she could no longer stand to be away from her daughter, so she came to the U.S. And she stated in the interview that when my daughter got married to an American husband, I wanted to be close to him and talk to him, so I needed to study English. So that was her reason. In the same thing, here's another example of theme 1. A participant faced a situation that he was unable to successfully respond to or navigate through because he did not possess the necessary skills, as mentioned earlier, and how this experience influenced the participant's decision to enroll in ESL classes. EQ is 33 years old and from Mexico. He has been living in the U.S. for 12 years. He immigrated to Southern California because his father was here, and he works for a distribution company that supplies restaurants. He stated, well, I've been feeling like I need to learn since about a year ago. I need to understand more English. Like on my job, most of the people are searching for codes or for sizes. Okay, I need a container, size 8x8, or this code S, and that's all they need to know. But if I need something specific, okay, I need a shell. It has to be clear, flat bottom, this size, these dimensions. it's kind of more complicated. And yeah, sometimes I don't know how to explain, or like the other day, our truck had some difficulties. My boss didn't know how to explain to him, to the shop. So I had to run over there and explain. And yeah, and that's when I knew I needed to learn more English. Okay, the second theme. Theme 2, a family element exists within decisions surrounding employment. It was interesting to discover that how work and family were interwoven for the participants. For the participants that worked, the field that they were currently in was not necessarily, based on their personal preference. Participants described how the necessity of financially supporting their family, or it came down to it was a family business. So even if they were offered an internship, they couldn't just quit their family business to take on another job. They would be doing a lot of family politics involved there. So then, this it was very interesting. For example, his father-in-law, he was dealt with international trade, and after retiring from his profession as an athlete in Japan, he immigrated to the U.S. to learn the trade, with the understanding that someday he will eventually take over his father-in-law's company. At the time of the interview, he had only been living in the U.S. for 4 months. And a side note, he was a professional basketball player, and his coach was Kobe Bryant's dad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like, wow. He stated, I didn't do anything. I didn't know anything in Japan besides my sport. However, I'm married. I've been married for 6 years and I have 2 kids. So when I was in Japan, I thought, when I become 30 years old, I'm going to retire from my sport. But everything is very hard because, the language is different, jobs are different, and the surroundings are all different, and the country is different. Theme 3. Family obligations supersede decisions to enroll in classes. Class schedules are a key factor. For many participants, the main factor that determined whether to enroll in classes or not was how well the class schedule fit around their day-to-day family responsibilities. For example, EU, who recently quit her full-time job, had the opportunity to take classes while her children are at school. While describing her decision to enroll in classes, she talked about the class schedule. She stated, I just wanted to go to this school because I like the schedule. Because my kids go to school at 8 and my class starts at 9. So this one offsite, I noticed that a lot of students drove quite a while to get to that school, and the reason for that was the scheduling. They're able to drop off their kids and then come to school. Got the 2-minute mark. So the 14th, theme 4, the participants recalibrate their educational life aspirations through classroom experiences. The participants share how taking their classes not only improved their English skills, but made them rethink what was possible for their future. AC, 44 years old and from Peru, he had been living in the U.S. for 20 years. His family immigrated to the U.S. because his father felt the political situation in Peru was becoming too volatile and dangerous. He was a college student in Peru and he had to leave, but now he's an owner of a franchise. He stated, before, I never even thought about taking business administration classes. Now I see that it's possible. You know what I mean? It's like I see that it's possible. I have more choices now because I'm no longer scared about English classes or other topics in English. Now that I've discussed my findings, I will present the themes and how they mesh together in this exploratory model. These are all my versions of the model as I was sorting through the data. If you're familiar with grounded theory, I think it's called the constant comparative method. It was pretty much like zooming in and out of the data to where you saw all the themes would exist even if you got too close or too far. And what bled over was how it affected. And then this is the model, and I'm out of time. I apologize. But the effect on family, they go to take classes or go to work, but again, they have to have some sort of experience where they realize that their skills are not enough to go forward for them to enroll in classes, further their education or their career, but again, based on these 2 things, what played the biggest factor was the effect on their family. And for one of the, just like to make one final comment. For the recommendations for the policymakers, make firmer commitment to addressing the needs of the adult learners. I was so impressed with the IBETs, what you mentioned. Instead of repackaging everything that did the block grant, how people are doing creative things, that was like, yes. And these are my references. And last but not least, thank you very much for your time today. And congratulations to Dr. Z. He's here not under retirement. And that is all.